The Mind Over Mac software package is a 400K floppy consisting of 6 different programs that are released by Think Educational Software, which basically seems to be 2 people, Frank A. Marafino Jr. and Frank J. Dzuba in 1984. I apologize, second Frank. That's right, this was the very year the Macintosh itself was released, so we're going really old school for this one. Now, weird thing about this pack, I'll bet even a lot of the people who used an old Macintosh that are watching this are wondering, what is the Mind Over Mac pack? Well, I've got a surprise for you. There's probably many of you that have played something off this pack and you never even knew it. See if any of these sound familiar. We have String Art, which is a simple picture generator, Destroyer, a clone of Battleship, MasterCode, a clone of the board game Mastermind, Third Dimension, a 4x4x4 3D tic-tac-toe game, then we have On the Contrary, a concentration-inspired game, and there's also Trivial Intrigue, which is a Trivial Pursuit-inspired board game. Now, when I listed those programs off, I bet there's a lot of you that suddenly went, I played most of these! I thought they were freeware! You know how I know? That's exactly what I thought when I started doing this review. Almost everyone seems to think these games are freeware nowadays, actually. I've even seen them hosted on sites that don't host abandonware. Maybe people make this mistake because the Mind Over Mac pack is never mentioned in the games or the about screens, like, ever. Seriously, it isn't mentioned once. I salute the Macintosh Garden and the super old school Mac gurus who contribute and actually know where these things come from. Because I don't think anyone would have figured it out otherwise. Although, there is one game out of that list that cannot get that I thought it was freeware reaction. Trivial Intrigue. Turns out, you had to have the disc to play this one. You had to boot from the floppy to play it because there was a trivia file tucked into the system folder. Without it, no dice, Trivial Intrigue ain't running. But I can show it to you through the magic of emulation in Mini VMac. We'll boot up the disc into Finder 1.1. Yeah, we've jumped way into the Wayback Machine now. Heck, I don't even remember anything older than System 6, so this is unfamiliar territory for me. We'll save Trivial Intrigue for last, though. We'll start with the other 5 titles, the ones that people are probably more familiar with, starting with the simplest one, String Art. Normally I just talk about how it works and go over the pros and cons while I put gameplay footage in the background, but this one's so simple I can just show you what it does. It basically just draws lines on the screen in 3 different modes. There's not an option to save the pictures, they're just there whenever you click. I don't know, it was mildly entertaining, but I was a kid, so I don't know. It is kinda cool looking. I don't know, maybe I'm just easily amused. I like to think Mr. Dzuba wrote this when he was bored and then they just decided to put it in there. Hey, no complaints here. I just realized, how are you supposed to shut down in this ancient Finder? Damn it, I'll just play the rest of the games from my comfy System 6 until I get to Trivial Intrigue. Destroyer. This one is a clone of Battleship, written by Mr. Marafino. You know, it kinda sounds like a mob name, like Don Marafino. For some reason, this one is 2 players only, so I basically have the opposite complaint about this one that I had about Mule Born in my last review. Well, I guess I'll just have to play with myself. Tanara will face off against his evil twin, Aeronat. Yeah, don't tell me you haven't seen this backwards name trick before. As far as games go, I know it's in Wizardry, going into Trebor's Castle to find the Amulet of Wordna. And of course, NetHack's Amulet of Yendor, which almost no one saw because that game is damn near impossible. There's no restrictions on how you can place your ships in this one. You can place them right next to each other if you really want to, but that's just dumb. It works like normal Battleship, except for a couple of notable exceptions. First off is this little 1-square submarine. I know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to find a little 1-square ship? Turns out you don't. The hit area is a 3x3 square around the sub. Once 6 shots are hit in this area, on or bordering the sub, it's sunk. Which means it actually takes more shots to sink than the aircraft carrier. The second difference is that you can set how fast the shot markers fade. Yes, I did say fade. On the lower levels, you only start to notice them graying out by the time the game ends and you wonder, what's going on here? It's acting kinda weird. but if you set the levels higher, you will notice the waves of your missed shots quickly disappearing, the corpses of scorched, burned ships swallowed up by the ocean, never to be seen again. Seriously, if you fire in a spot where a sunken ship was after the markers have disappeared, now it's a miss. It's gone forever. Though the ship placement screen is kind of finicky too. You can only drag to the right or downwards if you want to place a ship. You can't drag up or to the left. Apparently that'll never do. It is a fun little Battleship game. I kind of wish there was a computer player option, but that's probably just because I can't find anyone willing to huddle around a 9-inch screen to play Battleship anymore. Oh yeah, all the games have their own little sound effects. They're not sampled sounds like Dark Castle, they sound something like an NES or Atari, but I have no problem with that at all. I love those sounds. Besides, they're better than DOS. Up next is Third Dimension, which is written by both Franks, a 3D tic-tac-toe game that, for all intents and purposes, takes place on a 4x4x4 cube. This makes 76 different ways to win, as opposed to 8 on a normal 3x3 board. Those 3D diagonals always seem to get me. This has been done before this time. There's the board game Cubic, spelled with a Q, although I think that was a 3x3x3 board, and by 3D Tic-Tac-Toe on the Atari 2600 of all things. But I'd much rather play this version than the 2600 one, even though they both have the same identical gameplay. Why? Well, it's not just because I prefer the Mac, although I do. If you set the 2600 version to the highest difficulty, it takes up to 20 minutes to make a move. That's not me exaggerating, that's what the manual says. Whereas the impossible level 9 difficulty in Third Dimension has no such problem. While not impossible, it is pretty freaking hard, so I have to imagine the computer is thinking about it pretty good. You have to guard against your opponent in 3 dimensions, and like I said, those 3D diagonals trip me up all the time. You can also have 3D rows, columns, or just all in the same square on each board, or 4 in a row on one layer. Honestly, sometimes I forget you can do that because I'm busy guarding the 3rd dimension. Ah, dang it! Took me half an hour and something like 15 games, but hey, I beat the computer on level 9. So, fun little game, supports 1 and 2 player. I don't really have any complaints here, a nice solid joint effort that produced a fun, relatively quick game that you can play by yourself or with your friends. Ah, MasterCode. Another Marafino game. I bet many of you have played some Mastermind variation at some point in your life because there's just so many of them, whether it be a computer variation or the actual board game. I've played several computer variations and the original board game. Personally, I liked Freeverse's Enigma. I really miss you, Freeverse. Bring back Wingnuts, please. I don't care if it's not free, I'll pay you for it. While there's no 2-player option, well, this game makes up for it with a rather unique feature, but I'll get to that later. Basically, it works exactly like you'd expect Mastermind to. You guess symbols and the other player, in this case the computer, tells you how many you have in the correct position and how many others are the correct symbol but not in the correct place. This one also has this little marker thing that I guess keeps track of the quickest amount of turns you figured it out on each difficulty. I don't really know why, but hey, it's there. If you guess the code within 10 guesses, then you win. It's that simple. So there's 3 different difficulties to this one. There's Novice, which is a 3-digit code with 5 possible symbols. Intermediate, which is a 4-digit code with 7 possible symbols, which is normal for Mastermind. And then there's the Expert difficulty level. 5-digit code, 9 possible symbols. It's the only difficulty I cannot win consistently. The others I'm able to win about 99.98% of the time. Somewhere around there, you know, rough estimate. Oh, but here's the fun little unique feature. You can turn on an option down here that turns the Mac into a lying ass. It basically has the option of lying to you during one turn. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes not quite as much, but it certainly makes the game harder. With this on, you also have to figure out if one of your pieces of information is just a flat-out lie. Luckily, it can only lie once in a game, so there is that. But still, you can make the Mac cheat. That's definitely a unique feature for a Mastermind game, isn't it? You can also get a hint. I think it's once per game, and if you really want that, I don't want hints. And there's a fun little Easter egg here. You can give up. There's no reason to give up. You can just keep going until you lose. But if you give up, it insults you. It doesn't insult you if you just plain lose, so I guess it's just there to find for people like me who look at all the menu options. I did delve into ResEdit and found all the insults, so here you go. My favorites are where it calls you just another empty folder, and another where it actually encourages you to drink. Think educational software, enemies of Alcoholics Anonymous since 1984. Or maybe it's just Marafino, not really sure. On the contrary, yet another Marafino title. This one is kind of a strange one. It's a matching game played with 2 to 4 players. Well, if I'm gonna have to play with myself again, I might as well make it fun company. There we are. So, in this game, you try to match different valuable objects, ranging from washing machines and computers, to Mercedes, boats, houses, and planes. Each item you pair up adds money to your score. They don't seem to have a completely set value, but they do have a certain range. A dishwasher, TV, or stereo is worth a few hundred, a computer, credit card, or pearl necklace, a couple thousand, whereas a stock certificate, PhD, diamond ring, Mercedes, boat, house, or plane, tens of thousands. You get an extra turn if you match something up, so there's never any harm in matching up the low-value items. Though, speaking of harming, you have cops and robbers. If you reveal one of these, you lose money, either as a bribe or theft. Okay, you have to bribe the cops, you know what that means? This is a game about a competition between master thieves to steal more than the others. Oh dear. Think educational software, or at least Frank Marafino here, is making games that encourage grand larceny and drinking. I think GTA's been beaten to the punch here. You can get rid of these by matching a cop up with a robber that protects you from losing anything from them, eliminating them from the board. A full game goes on for 12 rounds. Each round adds a new cop and robber pair, which, yes, that does mean the last level, level 12, is literally all fuzz and thugs. Funny enough, each later round actually goes quicker, because it's easier to accidentally match up one of the cops and robbers. It does take a little while to play. It is a long game, but it's also partly because of the animations, especially the ones like the elevator or, dear heavens, the safe. Ugh. They take too long and they start getting annoying, but it still seems like it could be fun to play with if you had some people around and you all had time to kill. So there is that. Seems like a decent game. Let's go on. We're going on to the big one, in fact. Here it is, the game that fewest people have played out of any of these, Trivial Intrigue. This is the one we've been waiting for, right? After all, this is the one you have to have the disc for, and both Marafino and Zaiba were in on this one. It has to be good, right? Right? It's basically Trivial Pursuit. Oh. It's also slow as molasses. Let me explain this one, and hold on to your butts because there's a lot wrong with this game, but I'll save the biggest issues for last, just to keep you watching. First is just the design of the game. You can have anywhere from 1 to 4 players, and your score is determined by the number of bonus questions you answer. The winning condition ranges anywhere from 4 to 20 bonus questions. So, just what is a bonus question? How is it differentiated from any of the other questions? You get a bonus question when you go all the way around the board, which is 20 spaces. How do you move? You click the middle to send the board into a kind of trippy animation. When you click again, it lands on a category. Science, which is gray, sports, which is light gray, or entertainment, which is extra light gray. How do you time it to land on the one you want? I'm not sure. I think you're supposed to watch the space your piece is on and click when it's the color you want it to be. Well, I suck at 2 of these categories, sports and entertainment, but that's not the game's problem, that's my problem. Not to mention these are sports and entertainment questions from 7 years before I was born, so yeah, there is that. Each question is rated 1 to 3 stars. If you get the question right, you move that many spaces. So you have to answer anywhere from 7 to 20 questions right to get a shot at a bonus question. A shot meaning a chance at a point. And if you get it wrong, you get no point, and you have to go all the way back around the board for another bonus question. Well, I guess at least you earn points more often than Desert Bus. Well, this game actually does have a one-player option for some reason, even though you'd think it would be a competitive trivia game, so I did complete this game by myself with a 4 bonus question condition. It took me about 37 minutes. Okay, now imagine 4 people, about 2 hours. Now imagine 4 people with 20 bonus questions. You're looking at a 10-hour game here. I mean, really, no one wants to play a trivia game for 10 hours straight. There's no multi-finder either, so it's not like you can switch to something else and resume it later, and there's no save option. So you're stuck until you finish, or more likely, someone gives up unless you're willing to leave your Mac on overnight to resume it the next day. And that is one long trivia. I don't think I could stand that. Although, honestly, I was starting to have fun with this game, especially when I got on a roll. Who wrote The Christmas Carol? Charles Dickens! I didn't even need multiple choice for that one. Most Daytona 500 wins? Richard Petty. First stock car driver to pass 1 million in earnings? Richard Petty. Haha, the answer is always Richard Petty. I was getting questions about Farnsworth's, Mork and Mindy, The Andy Griffith Show, Willie Mays, not to be confused with Billy Mays, The Blues Brothers, Watson a gram of uranium, and hemp. Okay, now we have drinking, larceny, and cannabis possession. Mind Over Max got quite a rap sheet going here. And thanks to Jimmy Neutron, I knew Marconi was the inventor of the radio, and I learned the Roy G. Biv wavelength scale from Bill Nye. So I was actually enjoying myself here. I was actually kind of liking this game. And then, about 15 minutes into the game, the typos started coming. And they just kept coming. Trivial Intrigue is filled with typos. Histroy, there, crane, lightening, inconsistent quotations, hexadecimal. If this was an English class, I'd have to refill my red ink pen. You might be thinking, so what, they spelled a few things wrong. Is that really such a big deal? Normally I'd say not really and just make fun of them a bit, but there's another thing. Some of the questions are completely ambiguous. Here's one. Which cereal grain alone has over 15,000? 15,000 what? Come on, what is this? What is the most dangerous of all sea creatures? By what measure? You have to use proper questions if you want to be a trivia game. I assume by deaths, but you're really not giving me anything to go on, Trivial Intrigue. Oh, and guess what? That's not all. On top of questions you can't answer, there are questions that are completely wrong. Apparently these Franks think that parrots have only 2 toes, when in fact I looked it up, they have 2 toes in each direction of their foot, making, oh, what is that, 2 plus 2? 4! Yeah, I was wrong, I said 3, but the game was wrong too. Transforming lead into water? What is this, alchemy? Oh, and they think a device that measures the direction and intensity of an earthquake is a Geiger counter. You don't have Wikipedia back then either, so some kid probably learned a Geiger counter is a seismometer thanks to this freaking game! You failed, Trivial Intrigue. You have failed. You flunk out of trivia game school. F! F minus! Super F! Get out! Get out of my classroom now! Oh look, here's another ambiguous bonus question. What are you if your IQ is below 25? The person that put together the questions for this trivia game, so an idiot! A massive idiot! Wait, I was right? How does this question even make any sense? Oh. Okay, actually this was how mental retardation used to be classed. Now I feel bad. Had to look it up. A moron was someone with an IQ of 51 to 70, an imbecile was 26 to 50, and an idiot was 25 or below. Yeah, you know what? Try calling anyone any of those things as a doctor now, I dare you. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a link in the description. It's interactive. It'll show you how they calculate the epicenter and magnitude of earthquakes. Because a Geiger counter measures radiation. More specifically, ionizing radiation. Which, unless earthquakes start releasing radiation when the fault lines move now, has nothing to do with quakes. This freaking game. I apologize for showing you such a misleading game. All the other games are decent. I actually enjoyed those, and I was enjoying Trivial Intrigue for a little while until the typos and the ambiguous questions and the incorrect answers started showing up, so... Yeah, I apologize, but it had to be shown, I suppose. This is Tanara Kuranov signing out, and I'm staying away from trivia games for a while. Ugh, dear lord!